I want to have a part. This is the big, hairy, audacious goal. The big, crazy dream is have a part in pushing that across humanity. That's the thing that inspires me the most of anything, is being one of the mavericks, one of the front runners, one of the people that are help pushing this. I call it longevity just because people can grasp onto that fairly well. But it's not so much just longer lifespan. It's more productive years of your life.
We are here because we know the outcomes in our lives are within our control. That taking absolute ownership of how we eat, sleep, train, think, and connect with each other is how we'll optimize our health and happiness. That chasing excellence is how we grab hold of what is possible. Our mission is to live on the run, always chasing, never stopping. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Chasing Excellence as we get closer to the end of 2020. Ben, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Pat.
We are, I don't know, we're going to do something fun or terrible. We don't know yet. We're going to try this. We're going to try a new kind of show. We have shows where we sort of do some rapid fire stuff. We've got 2-minute drills. We've got 3x3s. But none of those are really truly random questions. And we thought we'd try and we play with introducing some much more random type questions to the show to see what kind of conversation they spark, see what kind of fun we can have with it. So that's what we're going to do today. We've got 10 questions. Some of them are truly random, and some of them are sort of CrossFit fun, sort of like over beer type conversations. And so we've got 10 of them. We're going to share our thoughts, our answers to each one of these. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. First question. What is something popular now that annoys you? I'll let you go first.
All right. Social media. I'm going to throw the whole social
thing?
media world into one bucket. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not even into one specific app. Part of it that annoys me is how addictive it is, and the fact that I use it. Yeah, that's a kind of a bummer. But I think that it does more harm than good, and I think it just kind of ticks me off that it's such a big part of our lives, and it ticks me off even more. That's even a bigger part of our kids' lives. So. Yeah. Yeah, I might even go even bigger bucket and just go technology in general. I'm not a technology guy, so yeah, I'll go social media.
Narrow in on social. That's funny. If
I want to go even more narrow, I'll go TikTok. Like, what the hell is TikTok?
You and I clearly get along, because my answer was going to be, my first initial thought was TikTok, even though I don't really understand it and I've never been on it. Generally speaking, it's annoying. But then I really started thinking about what about TikTok, what about social is really annoying to me. And the thing that popped into my head was, I keep seeing it, is couples trying to go viral by being funny together, right? Like doing this little skit or being cute, or it's just, and I just try to imagine the conversation between hey honey, you want to try to go viral on TikTok today? And like the answer to that is yes.
That whole I'll anyone trying to go viral, period.
Yes.
Like the amount of effort put into trying to that kind of bugs me. It's like let's spend 12 hours trying to throw a ping pong ball off 9 different ricochets into a solo cup.
Yes. What's worse, those people or the people who only spend time watching those things? Those people doing that. What's more annoying? I don't know the answer to that.
If the people that only spend time doing that, would be really bad, because they do nothing else. So that would be worse.
All right. So we both agree social and/or TikTok is something popular that annoys both of us, which just makes us sound like old men, but that's fine.
That's all right.
Next question. What pro athlete from outside of CrossFit would you want to coach? I will go first.
All right.
And I have no idea.
That's your answer?
I have no idea. Because here's the thing. It's probably been 10 years since I paid any attention to pro sports with any real regularity, which is crazy because growing up, it was literally my obsession was pro basketball, pro baseball.
Yeah, right.
And it's so strange to me to think that at some point that just stopped.
Okay, so these questions are basically just going to be justification to prove how old we are. Because
so far,
mine is about the same. Mine has the same kind of like same categories. I don't know any current real athletes, so I'm going to go with historical ones. So actually, the first one I would pick would be Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee would be like that would be just dope. Just because I could sit there and listen to him philosophize all the time, and I would learn as much from him. Yeah. But the athleticism and the relative body strength, and that would be so cool. Another cool one would be Bode Miller, the Olympic skier. Yep. Yeah. So the reason I go to him is there used to be this thing before CrossFit that was, remember like CBS's Wild World of Sports? Like they take sportsmen's challenges and they take people from the NBA and the NFL and random sports and they put them through the random tests. And some of the tests would be like bench press, another would be obstacle course, another would be like run a mile, next would be like a tug of war. Bode Miller won that, beating out all these other like wide receiver, like Pro Bowl wide receivers, all-star NBA players for like 3 or 4 years in a row. He was just so athletic and like 10 components of fitness, like had it really, really well. So I'm also a skier, so that would also just be fun to kind of like sit down and chat with him about stuff. So
yeah,
I go with those. Or if I wanted to like get like a next potential winner, I'd pick like some sort of like halfback or defensive back from the NFL, like a 5'9", 5'8" halfback, running back from the NFL. And they just work on building endurance because they have so much athleticism, strength, and power. Just build some skills and stretch them out, and that would be fun. But no one in particular, like an Adrian Peterson type athlete in his prime.
Might also be fun to take like it's probably more likely sort of in the older days, but take like an out of shape baseball player who is still good at baseball and see what would happen if you actually, the classic would be like Babe Ruth. Take him and actually, make him a good athlete and then see what he could do with the sport specific skills that he clearly had, right? And combine those two things.
Oh, so you're saying like take somebody that's phenomenal at their sport that is not quote unquote fit, make them really fit, and then put them back in their sport.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of this in terms of like the athlete comes out of their sport and comes into ours.
Oh yep, that'd be fun too.
That's the way I was looking at that.
No, I was just thinking about how taking an athlete in a sport that maybe didn't demand, or classically like golf would be a great example. Like I think one of the things that Tiger Woods did, not only obviously being as good as he was in the sport, but he also introduced the idea of being of fitness and being strong as being an element of golf that could help you be a better golfer. And I think you see a lot of golfers now who had come up growing up watching him play. That's kind of normal now. But go back and take Jack Nicklaus and give him a barbell or whatever, and see what he could have done if he was a stronger athlete, not only just a technically skilled athlete.
Yeah, right. Or someone like Ben Roethlisberger, who's really good, but just like is out of shape.
Yeah. All right. Next question. What is the craziest, most outrageous thing that you want to achieve?
Oh, I'm going first?
Yeah, you go first.
Yeah. I want to be a part of improving the human, not lifespan, but life play. Like I want to be able to, if our average lifespan is whatever it is, depending on where you live, but let's call it 80 years old, I'm not so interested in moving that to 90 or 95, but taking the average. So our mission at CrossFit New England is to create a family of humble, hungry, happy people who kick ass in their 90s. I want to help people like kick ass longer, and not just on a small scale like the few hundred members we have at CFNE. I want to have a part. This is the big, hairy, audacious goal. The big, crazy dream is have a part in pushing that across humanity. Like that's the thing that inspires me the most of anything, is being one of the mavericks, one of the front runners, one of the people that are help pushing this. I call it longevity just because people can grasp onto that fairly well. But it's not so much just longer lifespan. It's more productive years of your life. And I think I don't think it's out of the reach. I think it's within our grasp. And that's the big, crazy, hairy, audacious goal that gets me pumped.
How much of that, I have sort of an answer, but I'm curious, how much of that goal mission is the mission that you imagine CrossFit, on the big stage, CrossFit HQ, CrossFit as a movement is on, or how much of it is something about how you see your role within CrossFit or your usage of CrossFit or how CrossFit New England delivers it, if that's the right way? Like, do you see those things being separate, or are they kind of the same thing? You're like, CrossFit New England's mine and I'm going to try to push that.
There's certainly overlap, but I think there's a unique play and position that I'd like to push it towards it, which is more of a 360-degree all-inclusive health play, whereas CrossFit is obviously mostly highly invested into the training aspect of things. It's CrossFit, it's fitness. Now, fitness is how you define it, helps kind of like describe their avenues and their play and the direction that they're going. But I would like to take a different approach, a much more holistic 360-degree approach of training would have a piece of that, but it's only, to me, like the training aspect in the gym is 20%. Tops. It's probably closer to 15%. So I would like to take a more all-inclusive approach to making this thing happen.
Yeah.
If people have listened to the podcast, it's not a mystery to like what those things are. It's our 5 factors, and kind of I'm just so confident, if that's the right word, I don't know, that those factors influence our lives. So,
and that you'd be able to help bring people the tools necessary to tackle all 5 of them, right?
Yeah. And with the tools together in a single deliverable. So right now, if you want to get the best of those things, you got to go to the best of all these different things. So what, like, imagine if, the way I say it is like, imagine if, you got to, like, people go to these retreats, right? And they go to, like, there's a place in Western Mass called, I think it's Canyon Ranch, where you go there and you eat perfectly, like organic, farm raised. It's like cooked perfectly. So the nutrition is dialed. It's so low stress, and you're getting body work done, and you're meditating, and you're living like your perfect lifestyle in that. But the problem is, it's an artificial environment. You're going there to spend those 2, 3, 5 days there. The goal is, can you bring that to become the norm? That's really hard, right? That's really hard because you have traffic jams, you have pollution, you have meetings to get to, you have a fight with your spouse or your siblings. You have so many other things that are interplaying. That's why it's the challenge. That's why it's the big thing that I'd love to kind of make happen. What's your take on this? What's your thing that you're chasing?
Yeah. So, when I first think about this question, one of the things it's actually relatively recent that I've started thinking about it. And actually, this kind of maybe a foreshadow to a future episode, but we're both reading a book called The Art of Impossible by Stephen Collier. Stephen's going to be on the show in beginning of January. And one of the things he talks about, and he talks about it in different books, is this idea of a massively transformative purpose. And I think that's how he phrases it, or what he calls it. And basically, it's similar to that idea that you had mentioned, big, hairy, audacious goal, which I think is like a Jim Collins good to great type phrase, right? And it's one of the things that I think, the thing that I've realized recently is that I actually struggle with coming up with those kind of big, audacious, like I consider myself a really ambitious person, but I still at the same time struggle to imagine or to conceptualize that giant, maybe unreachable, but worthy of pursuing type of goal. And I think that that's something that going forward, I'm going to try to figure out how to work on, because I think I think that there's a lot of self-limiting beliefs there that lead to being unable to imagine what that that crazy, big, outrageous thing you want to achieve. But I will say that if I were to look kind of internally, maybe not so much like we had talked about with you, like what is the impact you're going to have, which I think for me is a bit of a challenge. But for me internally, the thing that feels still kind of crazy and outrageous is just to continue to try to build a life where I have what I consider to be project independence, which is just my way of saying, like, I want to be able to always pursue opportunities with people who I want to pursue opportunities with, irrespective of, well, can I afford to do that? Do I have the time to do that? Is that safe? What am I going to, what risk, obviously you want to mitigate risks, but just the idea of like, if you and I were to, come up with, hey, do you want to go try to do this thing? Like, I don't want like, oh, I don't have time to do that. I don't have the space to be creative in that way. And it's something that to me feels really audacious and really crazy to just continue to build a life that, allows for that kind of thinking and that kind of those kinds of pursuits.
That doesn't sound like you're that far off from creating. I mean, like you want to live a life of independence, a life on your terms.
Yeah, and one of creativity, I think, is also a big part of it. I think it's really easy to say no to opportunities because they don't, because it feels unsafe to do so. But I think that's where things get interesting, is where you can find the blend of safe but not safe, right? Safe but not guaranteed, I think is an interesting place to live. And I think that we often don't allow ourselves to build that kind of life. And I think that's just, it's always been really intriguing to me.
I think you got one. I don't think you're as far off as you think you are.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
I've enjoyed reading Art of Impossible, though.
Yes.
It's cool. I'm psyched to.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to Stephen. Okay, move on to the next one. This is a CrossFit-focused one. If you could go on a 4-hour car ride with any CrossFit Flow Master, who would you choose? And just for folks who maybe don't know that term, Flow Masters are the level ones, at least at the level ones, the kind of the head trainers at the level ones, right? The folks who are kind of running the show there. I'll let
so you go first
on that one.
Yeah, you go first. Yeah.
So I don't know if he's still doing this, and I wish I did because he's awesome. I just don't know. I haven't been able to track, partly because he's not on social media, so I can't stalk him on it. But Todd Widman, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Do you remember Todd?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Big Todd. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I haven't talked to him in years and years and years. Back when I was at Again Faster and doing a lot of filming, I ran into him a handful of times and got to interview him, and he just always struck me as just like the kind of guy who you just want to just like hang out with and listen to and cool. Learn from. And so whatever he's doing now, I hope he's obviously doing well. I think he was still involved in CrossFit in some way. I just don't know that he's Flow Master anymore. Yeah,
that's a great one. Todd's a good guy. All right, I would go with Pat Sherwood. I think that so Pat is same type of thing. He's a guy that you could sit and listen to forever. Yep. He's got a great tonality, if you want to say that. Like he's a really great guy to listen to, and he's funny as hell. He would be a super fun guy to spend 4 hours in a car with. So I agree. He's a smart dude. So you learn, have fun, bro out. And he's been there, done that. He's done like the motorcycle rides to whatever is a down to South America, and so adventurous as well.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest, because you can
and he's kind like a guy's guy, kind of like he's a guy, like he would, like if a car broke down, he could fix it, which I could not.
Yeah, me neither. But he's got I think they did a couple series, but he and Ian, a mutual friend Ian, when they were both at CrossFit HQ, filmed a whole series of taking a motorcycle trip down to South America. So you can actually get like at least a glimpse of what it would be like to go on a long car ride with Pat Sherwood, because there's a whole video series on it. Okay, cool. Next question. If you had a heads-up display that showed 3 stats about any person you looked at, what 3 stats would you want it to show? you
That's
first.
just a cool concept. That's just cool. Okay. So what you're saying is like everyone walking down the street has like basically a sign above their head that displays
Basically,
three things.
Yeah.
All right. The first one I want to know is how honest they are. So right away, like that's just so to me, because it takes a long time to trust people. And I think trust is the number one thing that you can have in a relationship. So if the person's not trustworthy, like I'm passing right by. If their trust level is whatever it is, like A+ or 100, or it's like very, very, very good or whatever, like that's somebody worth investing in a relationship with. So that would be the first one. The next one would be something like how caring are they? Like how much would they how much do they care about other people? Because if you're really honest but you're super selfish, that's not really, I'm not gonna like, I wouldn't want to spend much time investing in that relationship either. And then the third one would be like their EQ, their people smarts. Basically like how engaging would be are they to be around. I'm talking I'm taking this from the perspective of like strangers that I might want to meet. It's like I'm at a cocktail party and that's so weird. I've never been to a cocktail party, but like that's what I'm thinking. Not like what's above my wife's head and what's above my kids' heads. But this is like for me to engage with strangers. Those are three things, and they're all probably different shades of the same thing. But honesty, people smarts, or emotional intelligence, and how much empathy or caring or selflessness. That's what I would go with.
That's interesting. I didn't, when I see that question, I don't think about those kinds of things, because the things that popped into my head were things like, how much sleep did they get last night? And I don't know why this one, but how many books have they read this year? Like things that would tell me. I don't know.
What does that tell you about somebody?
Well, the sleep thing I think is helpful. I think it's useful to know if somebody's exhausted or overtired or not, because most of us respond poorly to being underslept, even though we can't often tell. So it'd be interesting to go into a meeting and, you look at somebody and say, okay, they only slept 4 hours last night. I don't know. I just feel like that would be an interesting fact to have. Books tell me. So
like Whoop, you can actually do it with your friends. Like I have a friend.
You can do that.
Make things like little leader. Oh yeah. Like I wake up in the morning, I see how much Katrin slept last night. I see how much Amanda Barnhart has slept last night. I see how much my wife Heather slept last night. You can. That's available.
Yeah, but to me,
we can do that, Patrick.
We could. It would just be interesting to me, because it would be helpful to know. Like I just think about all the, like, I guess, pandemic times, everything's a little different, but it would be helpful to know, like, maybe the checkout girl at the grocery store is grumpy because she just got 3 hours of sleep last night, and maybe you shouldn't take it personally, right? Or whatever it
I know where this is coming from. This is coming from a dad with 2 young kids. There it is.
Yeah, maybe
you want other people to know. You want other people to know why you're grumpy.
No, I'm never grumpy, nor do I leave the house very often.
There you go.
But maybe that is why sleep is on my mind, is because I do think about sleep a lot. And something like books would tell me just how engaged somebody is in the world. How many minutes they spend on social media, that would be kind of interesting. I don't know that these are useful facts. I would just kind of be interested. I think it says a lot about a person when how, if they read books, if if they spend a lot of time on social media, if, things like that. I think it gives you a sense of who they are or where their priorities are. And I think you can make judgments, but you can make judgments on them by that.
All right. So what's the judgment you'd be laying if somebody did or did not spend a lot of time on social media?
I would probably, if somebody spent a lot of time on social media, I would probably, assume that they're not living a very purpose-filled life. I think social media, if somebody who spends a lot of, obviously I'm judging strangers now, which is always dangerous, but I think social media is really good when, as an escape from realizing that you're not that satisfied with your life. And I think that if you see somebody who spends a lot of time on social media, they're probably hiding to some degree. They're hiding from the recognition that things aren't going well.
It sounds a lot like social media is the new alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that like, it's like 10, 20 years ago? Isn't that the same answer somebody would have given to
how many drinks you had last night?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because they're not fulfilled. They have other issues. They're trying to find escape somewhere else. Like, whoa. The reason I asked that is because someone like Katrin spends a ton of time on social media.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But she has a social media. It's essentially her personal brand and her business. It's her earning potential all comes through that platform. Yep. So if you saw the sign above hers, it would say like a ton of time or whatever that is. Whereas other people might not be spending half as much, but not be quite as fulfilled as her. And I wonder if it is it's an interesting debate for sure. And have we talked about it on here, the movie Social Dilemma?
No, I don't think we've talked about it. I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's wild.
Yep.
Which gets back to the first question. That you asked. Like, that's why social media pisses me off so much. Yeah.
It's because they're so good at what they do, and what they do is not helpful. Right. Okay, we're going to move on. Well, another CrossFit related question. Who's the most underrated CrossFit athlete, CrossFit Games athlete currently competing? And how about ever? So kind of a two-part question.
Is it me or you first?
I think I go first that time. So I'm going to say the most underrated ever is maybe Chris Clever.
That's a good one.
She was old school, and she was so good and so dominant, but it was just right before the period where the CrossFit Games really popped. And so it kind of like she was quickly forgotten, I think. And I think, honestly, not to be kind of cynical about it, but she also didn't really, like, she didn't really make for the classic, She wasn't Annie, right? She wasn't tall and blonde and from Iceland. And I think that because of that, she didn't get a lot of the sponsorship, and she didn't get a lot of the video and all of all the things that happen when it just so happens that you're really good and also you look like Annie, right? And I think the combination of those two things, she was just, I think, forgotten a lot quicker than if she had been as good as she was in, let's just say, 2012 and 13 versus 10 and 11, which I'm kind of guessing was when she was really dominant.
Yeah. Cool. I like that. I like that era, and that's a great answer. I told you it was when she was dominant. She was dominant. She was so good. I'll throw a couple of throwbacks out there, and I'll give you my most current. I think underrated historically, Tommy Hackenbrook and Graham Holmberg.
Interesting.
Those two guys. So Graham won the games. Only got to beat Rich Froning, and people are like, "Oh, whatever." It's just like Graham was legit. He was so well rounded. He defined like the no real wheelhouses, kind of just flew under the radar. And same thing, never got any of this like. Maybe it's part of the nature of where the sport was and the media was, and nobody really got it until the Rich Froning and the Annie era. That 2012 when the sport really started to take off. And then Tommy Hackenbrook was just, I think, always incredibly underrated. He was a beast. He was a man's man. Such a good dude. Been on the podium and phenomenal. The other one I'd say is probably like Miko Salo. Historically, like Miko, again, another champion that had he not been injured, I think would have been a threat for a very long time. I think he would have been on the podium for years and probably have won another one or two CrossFit Games. But I'll say that the most underrated CrossFit athlete is currently in our sport. And I think that's BKG.
That's a good call.
Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson has finished minus this year and the weirdness of what this year was. I think he's finished – I should have checked this before this, but my recollection is that he's finished somewhere like in the top 5 guys for the last 5 years in a row with multiple podium appearances. Yet he's on no one's short list of really, really top CrossFitters.
Yep.
He is, I think, by far and away the most underrated. I think he is from Iceland, but he's not a female, so he doesn't get lumped into the Katrin and Annie and Sarah categories. I think he's the most underrated CrossFit athlete of all time.
Yeah. What do you think makes an athlete underrated? Is it if you had to pinpoint why, I even think about Pat Vellner. I think he's underrated, even though of course he's, maybe not as underrated as BKG, but is it just there's a lack of flash to them? There's a lack of, I don't know, emotion, energy. There's a lack of some kind of hook where okay, that's who that person is, and that makes them interesting to watch or to think about. What do you think makes them underrated?
I think it's how I don't think it's flash or hook or I don't think it's any of those things, because I truly think it's just the uniqueness and the strangeness of where they finish. So BKG is always just there, but never there. Had BKG won 2 years in a row, he'd be in everyone's discussion every single year. Yep. Even if he was pushing Matt 1 year, like Noah did, he was just So I also don't put Pat Vellner in that category either, because if you watch games documentaries, it's all about Noah. It's all about Pat. It's all about Brent. It's all about Matt. Have you seen anything ever with BKG in it?
Yeah.
So to me, it's how good can you finish without getting recognized is the thing. And the getting recognized is honestly, it's just literally where are you in the entire story of every single year? Because if you're wearing the white leaders jersey up until Sunday, but then you end up in 9th place for some reason, you're not going to be underrated at all, because you're in the contention all the time. BKG is never quite in contention for the title, but he's always in contention for the podium.
Yep, that's a good point. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. What is the most boring sport, and what would you do to make it more exciting? Is it me first or you first?
I think I go first. You're first. I think I go first on this one. All right, so a few things that pop into mind. Super long distance running, just super boring. Is there anything more boring to watch? Because you don't need to watch it for an hour at a time and nothing happens. Yep. So it's that's just super boring.
How do you define super long? 50
to 100 miles.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yes. You're gonna do a 100-mile race. Watching that. So spectating, boring. I'm telling you this from a spectator standpoint.
Yep.
Really, really boring. The next one, it's just kind of picking on it, because is it really a sport? Is curling, where you shuffle discs across ice? That's really boring. Yet there's something about it that during the Olympics I watch it, maybe because it's on. So I don't know. I kind of lean towards those two things. Now I watch both of them, so it's kind of weird, but maybe it's why I'm thinking about it, because it's at the forefront of my mind. What would make it more exciting? The curling one? I don't know. Maybe if other team was allowed to play defense and you could check, and it would be called hockey. The super long distance running, I don't know. Maybe it's not long distance.Maybe it takes 10 seconds and it's called the 100-meter dash. I don't know. Maybe, or it's called stage racing, where it's every a couple hours it's something different. Now they're kayaking. Now they're rock climbing. Now they're whatever, something else. So
yeah, this question's tough, because by virtue of changing it, you've probably just changed the very nature of the sport. So it's you kind of defeat the purpose. My answer, though, I've got a couple, I think. The first one, though, and the first answer that popped into my head was anything to do with car racing, anything to do with racing vehicles.
Oh my gosh! So my dad's a car racer. Like my dad races cars, so he's gonna come for you. Yeah,
Especially anything
because I grew up with it. I find it exciting.
Really?
I find it exciting because so maybe it's also like how little you understand about it, because I'm not knocking you on that. Because as you were saying that, I was like, to me, actually, the number one thing would probably be like synchronized swimming. Like synchronized swimming does nothing for me. Like other than like the impressiveness of them holding their breath and stuff, but I have no idea. I don't even know what the rules are or anything. So, okay, but car racing. Yeah. Good one.
Yeah. I don't know how I would make it more interesting or more exciting though.
Well, you just have more crashes. The crashes are interesting.
I guess so.
So you make your sport less
crashes.
Safe. And basically any sport, to make it more interesting, you make it less safe. Period. You bring back fighting in hockey. You like make the track more dangerous. And race car driving.
I'll also say that, and I'm sure that you have, and I'm sure that a lot of folks have, but actually being at a weightlifting event is mind-numbing. It's fun. It's fun in snippets and highlights, and especially because you understand, or if you understand it. But being there just makes me want to smash my head against the wall.
Yeah. So actually, I heard a rumor that weightlifting might not be in the next Olympics because of that. Yeah. So that's a really good one, actually. Weightlifting. So how would you make it more exciting? You make it CrossFit.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Or I mean, not even CrossFit, but the weightlifting style events inside of CrossFit, right? Where it's all the athletes on the platform together at the same time.
100%.
Go up and Yeah. That's a good one, Pat. That's a really good one.
There is the most interesting part, again, just from a spectator's perspective, of weightlifting is the weightlifter's ability to kind of play games with each other by saying, by going up a kilo, and that bumps them down, and the other guy's got to go first now, and somehow bringing that more forward and more part of the experience of watching it. Like, oh, I can't believe he just did that. Making that more obvious and more central, I think, would make it more exciting.
The other thing that would make it more exciting too is letting people know where the athlete is relative to their own best. Yep. Like how they work under pressure. Yep. Right. So the first attempts, if somebody's lifting, 30 kilos underneath their PR, that's not very exciting. But if attempt number 2 is their PR, how does this person perform under pressure? That's kind of cool. Yep. Yeah. That's a good one. I'll go with your answer. Yes, cool. Weightlifting. All right.
Next question. What is legal now, but probably won't be in 25 years?
The Alexa listening in thing.
Smart speakers and whatnot.
Yeah, right.
Interesting.
So I'm not going to say it's going to be illegal, but it's going to be regulated somehow. You have to give, it has to be more forthright that you're giving consent, that type of thing. And they don't have access to everything. Yeah. I don't even know how this thing works, but that to me seems kind of weird, invasion of privacy-ish stuff. I'd also say kind of like having watched Social Dilemma, some of that, the way they hack our neurology, the way that they create, I think that's going to be regulated just the way that other addictive substances are, from gambling. Maybe you have to be 18 to get on social media, that type of thing. Yep. I think that that sort of technology play totally, because we're in the wild, wild west right now. It's just being created. Yep. And there is no regulations. They didn't even know it's supposed to be something that was supposed to be regulated. So something in terms of that, whether it's the listening in or them playing on the addictive nature of it.
Yep. I think when I think about that, I think that the thing that will be illegal in 25 years is going to be driving.
I agree that I didn't think of that as illegal. I think driving's going to be gone, though. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think that once the technology gets better and we recognize that it's the humans causing all the problems, then we'll start to regulate to the point where it's actually safe.
Yeah. Safe, eco-friendly, all of that. Yeah.
Much faster. Yeah.
Yes. No traffic.
Yeah. And you can go up at much higher speeds if there aren't any humans involved, right?
Yep.
Next question. What is the biggest realization you've recently had about yourself?
That I'm not a very good manager.
Interesting.
I actually had a conversation in the last meeting I just had. It's just not a strong suit of mine at all. I consider myself a fairly adept leader, but not manager. And the difference between that is a manager is responsible for make sure that boxes get checked, X's and O's are happening. It's the assembly line workers are all showing up on time, putting the widgets together in the right way. There's a quality control to it. It is taking the human aspect out of it completely, and it's just the framework and the structure and systems. Yeah. So I hate details. I just hate details. You know this as well as anybody. Yeah. I love big picture, and because I love big picture, it lends very well to the leadership side of aspect, which is building the human aspect and making people better people and working through problems, creating that's the stuff that I do a lot better with, creating a culture, an environment, working through ideas into reality. Like that's the stuff that I kind of thrive in. And I've always known that I've disliked it, but I haven't realized I wasn't good at managing. And that's a realization I had over the last couple of weeks, that I am not a strong manager at all. And
that's interesting. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, now that realization has happened, it's not a negative. It's a great thing that you can I can realize it, because now I know how to work through, around, or with someone else to make sure that that's not a hole.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I was surprised that it was maybe a realization for the last couple of weeks, because my question was going to be if that was, at least in part,
you're like, you've been a shitty manager forever. How's it taking you this long?
I was going to ask you if that realization was part of the reason that you brought in a CEO at CompTrain.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So that's. I knew I was bad at I knew I didn't like the details. Maybe that's a realization.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't like it. I didn't realize I was bad at it. That's the difference.
Yep. That's an important distinction.
I really realized I'm bad at this. I'm not good at this. I just thought I didn't like it. So because I didn't like it, I'd rather have somebody else do it. Enter CEO, that type of thing.
Yep.
What I've realized is it's not just as I said, I'm not good at that. It's not a skill set of mine.
Interesting.
So even if I liked it, I still wouldn't be good at
it. Yeah, true. Yeah, I think for me, one of the, I hinted at it a little bit. I think a handful of things. The end of the year always ends up being I end up spending a lot of time staring out the window and thinking. And so it tends to be a good time for realizations and planning and all those things. So I hinted a little bit at the recognition of my ambition, but my lack of skill at thinking ambitiously. I think that's part of it. And related to it is one that I've been thinking about a lot. I've thought for a long time, and I've acted for a long time, that what I want mostly is full autonomy. I want to work independently. I don't want to work too often with too many people, because that slows me down and that whatever. But one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is I think actually if I've been slowed down by anything, it's been my resistance to find partners, to find people to work with, to find people to complement my skills and help me build things that are bigger and better and more ambitious by virtue of having other people and other visions and other hands in the project. And so I think just for me, the realization was maybe my goal, maybe my what I should be focused on is not what can I build by myself? What can I do solo? But where can I find 1, 2, 3 other people who might bring in a different skill set, bring in a different perspective, and then together we build some things, going forward. So I think for me, that's a little bit of a shift, because I've been resistant to it up until recently. And now I'm starting to think about what could I build? What could I do if I had somebody else, if I had other people, if I built a team around some of these ideas?
So it's really, I commend you for the idea, the part where you said, I spent a lot of time staring out the window. That's awesome. That's really cool. creating that space, creating that solitude, creating the gap, creating the silence, the stillness. That's where a lot happens. And for someone as creative as you are, it's kudos to you for being able to realize the importance of that, and then being able to, it sounds weird, but like execute on nothingness. Like you have to do nothing on purpose.
Yes, 100%.
Because if you do nothing it's not on purpose, it's not nothing. Yep. It ends up being social media. It ends up being watching crappy TV. It ends up scattered thoughts. So that's really cool. The second part is I don't want to brush over where you said you're struggling with, you don't have the skill to think big, and that's like, and then what you just then the next sentence out of your mouth was exactly an incredibly well-defined big.
Yeah.
Like, you know exactly what you're chasing. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't fit in the nice pigeonholes that society's created for us, which is, I want to be CEO of a company. I want to start a nonprofit. I want to own an island. I want to have 100,000 followers. Like, because it doesn't fit somebody else's definition doesn't mean that it's not good or the right one. Mm-hmm. And then to compound where you are with that, the more that you knock yourself for not having found it and you continue and trying to search it, the less because you've already found it, you don't even know it, because you're like, that's not it. I gotta keep finding it. And the more you try to find it, the less likely you are to find it. Mm-hmm. It's like someone telling you like, Patrick, let's have a lot of fun and let's laugh right now.
Totally.
Well, you just did. That's great. So
No, but again,
you can't force joy. You can't force laughter. You can't force happiness. And the people that are searching for happiness are the least likely to find it. Mm-hmm. And what you need to do instead is open your heart to anything and let it come to you. So if you open your heart to anything, all of a sudden you go like, oh, this is my passion. This is my pursuit. This is what fulfills me. This is what I was put on earth to do. And if it changes next week, cool, no big deal. But for right now, this is the North Star. Mm-hmm. And you certainly have, to me, I mean, the way you defined it 2 or 3 times already in this conversation, that is what you want. So I would lean into it, not
resist it.
Not resist it. Yeah, that's the right way to say that. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Last question we have. What male and female CrossFit Games athlete would you choose to be on your zombie apocalypse team?
All right, you're first on this one.
I will say male first, and I will go Matt Fraser, not for the obvious reason, but because he's so damn smart. And I think that he would. I think not only does he have the brawn, that would be very helpful, but he's also got the brain. And so I would happily, follow his lead when the zombies come. I think for the female, I think I would go with Katrin. And again,
God, wrong. No, you're wrong. Oh my God.
I'm going to tell you why.
She would lie down in the street and say, eat me. Maybe that's why. Because they would eat her before they ate you.
There you go.
That's probably why.
No, that's so funny you'd say that.
We had this conversation.
You know her better than I do.
She's like, I would be the last person, but I'd be the first one to die. She'd be your food, basically. Yeah, she'd be the distraction.
Well, that's not why I chose her, but that's also helpful, I guess.
All right, so go ahead. What was your reason before
I think
took the hypothetical and made it?
Yeah, I think having, again, I obviously don't know her that well, but I know her. But having watched her develop her finding the right balance between positivity and grit, I think is really hard to do. I think it's easy to over-index towards one of those things and lose out on the other. And I think, at least, again, from my perspective, from the distance that I have, she's been able to find a really interesting blend of those two things such that they make each other better and they don't hinder the other.
Right. That's from that perspective, you're spot on.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
And also she'd be good food for the zombies. All right, your turn.
And she'd be a good roommate too. She's nice. Yes. All right. I really like your Matt Fraser choice. The other one is that he would just have an arsenal of weapons.
Yes, that's
which
also
would be
true.
like so beneficial.
Yeah.
But Matt is such a competitor. I'm afraid that he might like throw me to the zombies. So I'm going to go with a former CrossFit Games athlete. I hope that isn't hurtful. Josh Bridges.
Yep, good call.
He's a former Navy SEAL, so he'd have all the tactical side. So he knows how to literally, like, he's a warrior. So that would be super helpful. Also very fit. Also super fun dude to hang out with. So he'd be my guy. And then the girl, this is a for sure for me. Would be Sam Briggs.
I thought about her too. Yeah.
Sam Briggs is just nails. She is like totally up for any fight at any time. And she would be, I also think that she's brings kind of the same level of positivity and grit that Katrin does that you're talking about. That she is very much so when you see her on the competition floor, like it's all about, she uses competition to see how good she can become.
Yep.
And she very much wants other athletes to do really well because she knows that's going to make her better.
Yep.
That in the apocalyptic world, I think would be phenomenal to have that sort of mindset, and not this like woe is me or the over the top, what you were saying before, just like so diehard competitive that it kind of tips over and like it becomes sort of disastrous.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Those are the 10 questions we had today. Let us know what you think about them out there, this episode format, because that was fun for me, but I hope you enjoyed it. And then we'll be back next week for another episode of Chasing Excellence. You can get every episode of Chasing Excellence wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Until next time, thank you for listening.